Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast weekly show brought to you by Join Cycling, the #1 adaptive training platform for your cycling. And now you can combine it with the running goals. We're going to be going into some questions or stories from opening weekend, race recaps of the Samyn Classic yesterday, where Mathieu van der Poel decided to turn up, Lorena Wiebes and her team going for the women's version of that race. Today we had Trofeo Laigueglia as well as the U23 riders, some of them at least, on the Devo teams, beginning the week of racing in Croatia with Umag Classic. We're also going to preview Paris-Nice, I think a bit of Tirreno-Adriatico, as well as Strade Bianche. We got the women's Sanremo route finally revealed. It's only in a couple of weeks, as well as Grand Départ for the Tour de France announced. So we've got a lot to talk about, as always. So, what did you watch today, Benji?
What did I watch today? Trofeo Laigueglia, of course, sir. Was a really good race. I did not watch the UMA Classic. I got disappointed there.
It's impossible to watch.
Exactly. But also, it's also a race that is quite there in my heart, because every single year you see like the youngsters from the deaf teams really show up, or not just the deaf teams, also riding against continental team riders. But I want to talk about something else first, because we can talk about the races of today a little bit later. I want to talk about this first. Opening weekend was about 4 days ago now. Omloop, Kuurne. In total, pretty passive races. I think we both agree on that. We had Omloop, which ended up being a reduced group sprint of a rather large group. I think the largest group in Omloop history. Then Kuurne came, ended up being a sprint. And in my opinion, throughout the entire hill zone, not a single sign of, okay, this looks like a group that might actually stay away. I didn't see any sign like that throughout the entirety of Kuurne. So the way we look at those races, we've spoken about it in our recaps of those races, the passivity, I think, from my perspective, I think the passiveness of that race is a bit to blame on the super teams, not really delivering what we expected them to deliver in those hill zones. And we dove into that already, whether it's Visma Bike, UAE Team Emirates, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Those were the teams that we expected to push in the hill zone to try and make a group created, and that group to potentially stay away to the finish line. But they were put on the back foot in that exact zone. And therefore, they were never really able to create that group. And we ended up with a race where it ended up being a sprint in both situations. But if you look at those three teams, what went wrong for each team individually? Because I feel like it's different per team. I feel like some teams had half the riders not really show up in the form that I expected them to show up. But also with Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, I feel like there was a bit of an unsurety of how they should ride together as a team in a classic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they didn't really. They sort of rode for Tratnik all out with the Van Dijks in a free roll in Omloop, and then Sunday was all Jordi Meus. Jordi Meus cannot pedal on Saturday, but it's Sunday, the Lord's Day. Now he will beat Johnny Milan in the sprint. It was two different attitudes to Jordi Meus across the 2 days. What I think went wrong, Benji, was what went wrong for Visma Bike went wrong for Bora, Trek, and UAE on Saturday at Omloop. The teams that didn't want to sprint. If you're Jonathan Narvaez, what do you want? You want Visma to open the race.
Yeah.
You want Visma to anticipate. You want to go with Matteo Jorgensen. What did Visma do in that situation? Does he pull? Very difficult question.
Yeah.
And you want to go to a sprint with Jorgensen, or Wellens with Jorgensen. That's what you want. And Trek the same. You want Jorgensen with Vacek.
Yeah.
Bora, a Van Dijk, or a Tratnik with Jorgensen, or whoever, Strandhagenes. And when Visma were out of position, couldn't control the race, didn't do what they did for the previous 3 years, the three other teams not wanting a sprint kind of didn't do anything either.
Yeah, and it's partially because maybe their strategy was kind of okay. We expect Visma to open up and we'll react to that. Yep. But also, partially regardless of that, I think there's also an effect of them not being in position themselves to do it either. Because, yes...
Or Trek?
Trek maybe, but Trek also when it comes to Trek, are we talking Omloop or Kuurne?
Omloop. Kerner, of course, Kerner, you want to sprint with Johnny Milan, you lock it down. Vácek goes in the anticipations, refuses to pull, absolutely fine. I don't understand. In Omloop, they were in position on a lot of hills. They walked them and then didn't do anything.
I agree with you, but I think Vácek might be in this position where I see it from the perspective of, okay, this guy, it's his first year at this level in the classics, and maybe as a consequence of it being his first year, he's being too reactive instead of being proactive in creating groups and activities. Because yes, he was strong on the Muur, yes, he was strong on the Bosberg, but those are not exactly the moments you want to be riding at the front of the group if you're Vácek. Ideally, you're ahead by that point. Ideally, you can create a phase where you get away before those two climbs even happen. But I don't know, he was definitely very strong.
I agree, and it's like maybe Joshkoins and Sturven, and I think they're all on a equal level, and so they sort of want to follow and see which one's better. And then what's also clear is that Visma's depth in controlling the race, where they had Van Hooijdonk, Benoot in good form, Van Baarle in good form, Laporte was unbelievable in opening weekend both years he was on Visma.
Yeah.
Laporte's sick. Van Baarle was coming back in Drome. Tratnik's on Bora as their leader now. And Van Hooijdonk had to retire. That middle, below Jorgensen and Van Aert, didn't step up to control the race. And Alpecin took that power vacuum and said, we'll control it.
And you can't expect that from a Brennan who actually, he was there in
he's 19 years old.
He's I won't call him a kid, but in the grand scheme of things, he's still a kid when it comes to the peloton. So he was there to open up relatively early with Van Dijk, and that happened a little bit in Omloop, but we can't expect him to carry the race for Visma-Lease bike either. Kampenaerts, a bit disappointing in my opinion, but also, I've said this before, I feel like Tish Benoot's in this place where in Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne, I expected him to be the one that was okay, going to the front and maybe setting up Matteo Jorgensen in certain ways, and I didn't necessarily see that either. But we're talking a lot about Visma-Lease bike here, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. UAE Team Emirates as a team, I was also kind of disappointed about the amount of riders that were not in position before certain climbs. And how many of their leaders is the issue? Positioning versus maybe form? Because I would expect Vermeers to be in a better position than he was on these climbs, and I was kind of disappointed in Florian at UAE Team Emirates during the opening weekend. And when it comes to Wellens, he was strong. He was there.
Wellens was good, yeah.
Yeah. Morgado, do we have a view on that during those races? Narvaez?
Narvaez was good. Narvaez, I thought Narvaez was on the wheel and followed on Berendries and Omloop. Narvaez anticipated after Aski went in Kuurne. Narvaez in good shape. Narvaez was in position in Kuurne. Wellens, the races just did not pan out to suit him at all.
Yeah.
If you pair Wellens with a sprinter, you have a nasty combination, but they didn't. But yeah, Wellens and Narvaez are good. Vermeersch, I agree. Like usually on Lotto on opening weekend, he looked a lot better. But the thing is, for UAE's Tour of Flanders and E3 team, Wellens and Narvaez become lead-out men, finishing their race with an hour and a half to go. And then you have an Oliveira to do a lead-out, or whoever, and Vermeersch might come good, or Pollitt. Pollitt, I think, he didn't look good in Algarve, so he might have been sick or not in shape. But yeah, UAE are still for Flanders looking absolutely stacked.
But we also got to talk about a team that looks very good in the opening weekend. Alpecin de Koning looked fantastic. And we say that in Omloop, they were the ones on the Molenberg that were pushing on the Molenberg to not necessarily just create a split, but also to keep Philips in a good position, make sure he gets to a potential reduced sprint. But also, they weren't just riding conservatively. In Kuurne, we saw Philipsen himself being in position 4 on the Hotond after the Col de Trieux, being very present when Wout van Aert was throwing haymakers. And Philipsen himself doing that shows that he's not scared of spending some energy before a potential sprint, but also that he dares to lose, which sometimes can help with winning in the first place. Now, when it comes to the eventual sprints, let's be honest, Milan and Merlier were in absolute Narnia when it comes to position, but Groves delivering that lead out, Philipsen winning, super impressive. We also got to keep the same thought process of UAE in mind as well, because the riders outside of Philipsen in this team that were able to position properly Philipsen on the Molenberg are going to be riders that will be supporting Mathieu van der Poel at the Tour of Flanders. So, honestly, at the moment, Alpecin is looking really good for this classic season, especially for MSR and Roubaix in my head. RVV is a different story because Tadej Pogacar exists, you know?
Yeah, but still, like, Alpecin can pull some shit in the middle of the race somewhere.
Yeah.
They see someone out of position. They see the race happening, a little bit of wind. They're all PCM creator characters from Flanders, and they know every road. They know exactly the plan. They execute the plan. They're not scared. They're in position. We go to Samyn. May as well talk about Samyn yesterday. Alpecin go Van der Poel, the weather was shit in Calpe, so he came to Belgium, had better weather than Calpe for a day, so he came up to race. Look at Kierlich. Timo Kierlich, through the narrow corners, bang, he's attacking. Van der Poel using road furniture to just slip away. They're not even having to do huge attacks. They're reading the race and the flow, and then, you get a little pull off a motorbike, suddenly you're in a split with 3 riders. And the way they're functioning as a classics team, even with Van der Poel, is so good. And yeah, Van der Poel won that race yesterday. He tested the legs a couple of times, and as well as Kierlich and Simon De Haas is good as well. Like De Haas was part of their Kona win. And but then Van der Poel won the sprint very, very impressively. Yeah. But just before that, they looked so good as well.
Agreed, they were very active left and right, trying to get into moves, etc. But I do have to note when it comes to the sprint, it looked super impressive. Mathieu van der Poel taking the sprint from the front, and in doing so, immediately gapping the others. Is it a hot take to say that I actually think him starting at the front benefits him? Because Mathieu van der Poel's, his ideal sprint is a sprint where he can define the tempo going into the sprint, and he would like a sprint that starts at a little bit of a lower speed than a usual lead out, because then he can use his acceleration, which he's one of the best of the world in, to make that initial gap in the first place and maybe make the sprint not super long in the first place. And I think that helped him as well, because I reckon, maybe I'm wrong, I want your opinion on this, if that sprint is with a fully proper lead out into the last 2 kilometers, then I think Magnier gets a lot closer, if not is competitive against Mathieu van der Poel in that sprint. But I reckon the cobblestones with 3 kilometers to go cooked Magnier a little.
Yeah, I think he wasn't on the wheel of Van der Poel straight away, and even then he wasn't as strong in the sprint as Van der Poel. Van der Poel saying, I'm still the best uphill sprinter in the world, like in Luxembourg last year when he was sort of just finishing or preparing for world championships. But yeah, I agree, Benji. In the Kona style sprint with 80 riders and lead outs washing everywhere, that's not his forte necessarily. That's why they have Jasper Philipsen. But yeah, Van der Poel wins ahead of Magnier, who now has his worst result out of his 5 race days is 3rd, which is pretty good, I would say. Genier, who no one ever talks about on Total Energy, 26 years old, so consistent in sprints, these sort of classic style sprints. He's on Total, and yeah, he sort of come out of nowhere to just be a really consistent point scorer in these dangerous, tricky one-day races. So yeah, Van der Poel shows that he's ready for racing, ready for Strade, which will be... Oh no, he's doing Tirreno... No, he's not doing Strade because...
Correct.
They want it to be a monument, so they've made the course shit.
We'll talk about that in a second. Before we get to Strade and all the other races, I do want to bring us back one more time to opening weekend. We've spoken about Wout van Aert a little bit. Belgium media definitely has been speaking about Wout van Aert. The internet has been speaking about Wout van Aert. People are contemplating whether he should retire. I'm not on that page. But how do we feel about Wout van Aert to the classics? Because let's be honest about it. We've said it for 2 years now. I'm pretty sure that if you look at the parkour of the Tour of Flanders, it's gotten harder for a rider like Wout van Aert compared to the previous parkour of the Tour of Flanders, because altitude meters, etc., in a certain amount of kilometers, it just by format, the race is better fit, in my opinion, to a Pogacar and a Mathieu van der Poel. That's my view of things. I also what we see in opening weekend. Wout van Aert did not look dominant. I think that's fair to say. Otherwise, he would have been able to ride away somewhere or showed extreme strength. his extreme weaknesses in the races that we saw, to me, was positioning on climbs, etc. And I'm wondering how you look at a Wout van Aert then compared to what we can expect from the classics, keeping in mind that we have a different dynamic in the classics this year compared to last year. In RVV at least, we won't just have Alpecin that has to control the race. Because with Pogacar there, you've got Alpecin and UAE that might want to keep the race as close as possible until one of them launches, no?
Yeah, Pogacar's doing Utrecht, Wevelgem and Flanders, so it's pretty much all the major Belgian classics apart from Dwars Tour of Lanterne.
And maybe Roubaix.
Yeah, I mean, it's like is Tadej Pogacar doing Roubaix thing? I guess the Italian press, they do recycle that every week. It's like, okay. Wasn't he supposed to announce his schedule at UAE Tour?
Yeah.
It was all meant to be revealed and it didn't happen. What happened?
No clue. He's talking Alex Aramburu.
Maybe. Where Aramburu, Benji, just quietly.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Not, Ben Tullett versus Aramburu. Tullett at the moment is on top. So
the Seven Oaks Sabre.
The Seven Oaks Sabre. So have a word with your boy, Alex.
I have no way of contacting that man. The last time I tried to contact Alex Aramburu was back in the day with Astana. And I asked to the press officer of Astana very nicely. I was like, is his English good enough for an interview? And they said, is your Spanish good enough? But like a microaggressive response kind of way. They were insulted that I asked if his English was good enough. And they blocked me.
Basque riders normally speak pretty good English.
Apparently not, eh?
Anyway, on Wout van Aert's shape, the thing is, Benji, Pogacar and Van der Poel keep improving.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen 24 Pogacar in a Belgian Classic yet. And 23 Pogacar rode away from everybody so early that he had to stop before the second last Paderberg and wait for them. He's like, come on, catch up, NVDP, and we'll just go one more lap and then I'll let you go for good. And that was 23 Pogacar.
Yeah.
And 24 Pogacar was pretty good. And now I will say he looks super skinny, I thought, in UAE, and his explosivity wasn't his attack was a long attack where he got them off after 30 seconds. But still, he's going to be a favorite. And you're right, Visma, they shouldn't even control the race in Flanders.
Yeah, they definitely shouldn't control the race in Flanders because, in my opinion, Visma would be looking at, okay, can we get a secondary rider, maybe even a Jorgensen already early on in the middle zone of the race in the attack. And even, I'm sorry, but not even just Jorgensen. Wout van Aert himself, I have no issue with him playing that middle phase. But
he shouldn't be doing it.
But he shouldn't be doing it like Mess Pedersen in 2024. Because Mess Pedersen basically rode off the front alone for a while and closed the race for everybody. If that happens, you got to reset it and you got to try and get a group away instead. That's what you're looking for. A group so that you put pressure on Alpecin, put pressure on UAE. But it's also harder this year. Like we said, it's going to be harder for that middle zone to make those groups because now you have Alpecin and UAE trying to control that middle zone. Unless, would you dare to say that you look at the Tour of Flanders and think, okay, Mathieu van der Poel, after losing to Pogacar in 2023, do you dare to go head-to-head wait until Pogacar launches and then go 1v1? Do you dare to do that?
I mean, that is the interesting question to me, is if you were advising Alpecin, Benji.
Yep.
Because I always felt like Van der Poel split his attention, particularly in RVV, say 23.
Yeah.
He split his attention 50-50 to Van Aert and Pogacar, even after Pogacar had dropped everybody the second time Kwaremont. Surely now, if you're Van der Poel, you're designing your race plan. How do I beat Pogacar?
Yes.
And
100%.
Yeah, even if Van Aert attacks,
Van Aert's not a favorite for RVV.
That's a
sorry.
UAE. If Van Aert attacks, that is a UAE Pogacar problem.
Yeah.
If I'm Van der Poel, I don't think that's
I
how
agree.
we see it.
In some way, obviously, it's
Yeah, I mean, you can't
UAE
give a fucking
problem?
3 minutes.
Yeah, to an extent. But it's also, it's very different RVV from Roubaix then, because in Roubaix I do consider Wout van Aert a potential
Oh, that's
problem
different.
to
Roubaix is
keep in
different
mind.
kettle of fish.
Yeah. But in RVV, I agree. For me, the Wout van Aert I've seen so far, it's like the Wout van Aert I've seen so far definition. I'm sorry, but opening weekend is not 100% equivalent to the form we're going to see during the classics. Now, I'm not sure if the positioning problems are going to be fixed by then, because that seems to be a big problem right now. But I'm more looking at it in the way of the Wout van Aert I've seen in the last 2 years in RVV races. I would be focused 100% on Pogacar if I'm Mathieu van der Poel, because Wout van Aert is not a favorite for the Tour of Flanders. Especially, like, even 2 years ago, if I recall correctly, didn't Wout van Aert win E3 the week before? E3 is a whole different kettle of fish, because that's a much shorter race, less altitude meters, and then it's all closer together to the point that Wout van Aert might survive with those 3 like he did that year. And RVV had so much on top of that Wout van Aert is not in that realm of Mathieu van der Poel and Pogacar for RVV to me. In Roubaix, he might be. That I believe in.
Van Aert has 1 podium in RVV in 7 years.
Yeah.
Van der Poel has won it 3 times.
Is Little Trek not an ally for Visma Lease bike then?
It depends if you're Pedersen and Vacek, you want to get ahead. But yeah, it depends. It also, I'm also living in a world where we get to Strade this weekend, Pogacar wins 70k solo, and we're like, okay, nothing's changed. We'll still live in this world, and then RVV, everyone needs to calibrate their expectations based on that.
I agree.
Until further notice, that's what we have to assume. But before we get to Trofeo Laigueglia and Les Dames, a word in our show partner, Joint Cycling. Benji, you might have noticed, if you're listening, he sounds a lot better.
Yeah. I can talk again.
He got a TUE and he's on the recovery plan. How is that going, Benji?
Actually, pretty good recovery plan. Like, I started it about a week ago, so I'm still in the early parts of it. I'm happily past my sickness, so that's a good thing. And now I'm finally feeling good again, because the recovery plan is not about going out there and smashing it and doing full-on efforts for hours on the bike. No, it's about getting back to the habit of getting on the bike in the first place and getting to the consistency again, so that once that recovery plan is done, you feel okay on the bike again, and I can switch to one of the other plans, like the Lanterne Rouge training plan, for example, we have on there. So that's probably going to be my go-to plan after this. What are your thoughts?
I think so. I think you should do like a base builder or FTP builder. I reckon base builder for you would be good with like a 6 hours a week. Depends if you're doing indoors at the moment.
Yes.
I know you don't
Only
you're
indoors right now.
I mean, there's an indoor plan you can do as well, which I think might be actually good for you.
It's
And
like,
also, I actually know you shouldn't do base builder.
Okay.
You should do the indoor plan, because you will not do the base builder workouts. You will get on the trainer and you'll just start smashing. You want to do 30 minutes and do it high intensity, so you do the indoor plan.
I must confess, I was doing a recovery plan training ride yesterday evening, and I had that typical thing of, okay, let me do the easy endurance ride that I got given. I start the easy endurance ride, and after 59 minutes of the 1 hour ride, my brain said, all out smash. And I did a 1,000 watt sprint. What, sorry?
Don't you have it on erg mode?
No, I had it on erg mode back in the day for these training rides, but I feel like I want to get off that. I want to get used to feeling the watts myself. Is that a weird thing to do?
No. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Because I just feel like the watts are more real that way.
I have to do erg mode, and
you don't perform real watts. What can I say?
I just use join workout player erg mode.
Yeah,
watch Warzone live streams. The time goes so fast; it's unbelievable. Anyway. Go check out Joint Cycling's training plans. They've got indoor workouts if you're still trapped inside, if the weather's getting better. Summer's coming, as it is starting to do. We have the Race to the Sun coming up next week.
There is no summer in the UK.
Doesn't exist. In Belgium, apparently it does. Go and check out. There's a workout for everybody, for every day of the week, depending on what your mood is. But more importantly, there's a training plan that's sustainable and achievable for everybody's skill level and availability. So thanks for joining Cycling, for supporting the show and being the founder of the weekly show with us from last year. In Le Semaine des Dames, everybody was happy to go to a sprint with Lorena Wiebes, so we all know what happened there. She won easily. There were a few anticipations from Ruby Roseman Gannon. I can somewhat understand DSM, Picnic Postinel, shutting down the race because Charlotte Kohl had made it, but in the end, she had no gas left in the legs to sprint. And so Linda Zanetti takes second, Lara Gillespie, another good result. Third for her, the 23-year-old who was actually had a 2-year, was on the UAE development team and is already looking like a really good classic sprinter. So I was a little bit surprised more teams didn't try to attack, but I'm also not surprised. In Trofeo Laigueglia today, probably the best race of the last week, I would say.
I would go as far as saying this was one of the better races of this year for me.
Yeah,
because
really good.
Like, it doesn't open up with the 80 kilometers to go, so don't believe in that either, but it's also not what you expect for this race. And if you look at the circuit, that happens multiple times in the last 30 kilometers. It's also not the craziest circuit. It's basically 2 climbs, Capo Mele, which is the small capo from the Milano-Sanremo route, combined with the Colla Micheri, I'm pretty sure the name of the climb is, which is, I think, 8% average. So that's the harder climb where people try to batter each other, which is exactly what happened between 2 men on this race. And we saw an epic mano-a-mano fight between Juan Ayuso, who launched, and then Cristian Scaroni, who's been on absolutely amazing form when it comes to XDS Astana. And mate, the 1v1 of these two in this race was truly epic. Every single climb, they tried to attack each other. We saw Paulus trying to get back to them, Storer trying to get back to them. Bit of a combination there of like, ooh, is someone that comes behind going to attack them? But in the end, it was even in the group of 4 that ended up reaching the finish line, to me, it was always going to be Ayuso or Scaroni winning.
Yeah, I think Scaroni were a little bit strange. He had Beriol behind him. He's really punchy, but you can tell who has the better sprint in that when Ayuso would attack, Scaroni would not respond. He could not respond immediately, and he would like come back more slowly, and he's very lightweight. So, yeah, his sprint wasn't the best, but yeah, he is in crazy, crazy shape, actually. Like, for Strade Bianche, I don't know what his technical skills are like. He didn't do Classica Jaén, so I don't know how he is on gravel, but he looks, if he can ride a bike, pretty good for there. Ayuso was putting him under pressure on the descents, very good descender. And UAE didn't stop there. They won with Matthias Schwarzbacher in Umag Classic, which is the start of a week of U23 racing in Croatia. He's on UAE Team Emirates Gen Z team.
Wait,
the Devo team.
We got to talk about that name for a second. I think we've done this before, but what happens if the generation of the riders that enters the dev team changes? Because what comes after Gen Z, will the name of the team change with that?
But that's from Gen Z's from 97 to 2012. So in, I think, maybe 5 or 7 years, I was scared to think about.
Is that Gen Alpha or what is that?
I think in 2030 or 31, they'll have to change the name because they'll have a 2013 child in the team.
What is it called? Is it Gen Alpha or what is it? I don't know.
Kids born after 2012 don't exist to me. It's too scary.
UAE toddlers.
The UAE toddlers.
Good one. Slovakian.
He's Slovakian. Schwarzbacher wasn't the best U23 or junior. He didn't get like a development team. Maybe he got offers, but he didn't go to a development team. He went to ATT Investments, which is a Czech continental team. And he just wanted to be in an environment where he could Czech and Slovaks mutually intelligible. Where you could just familiar environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then his second half of his first year U23 season was quite good. UAE picked him up, and it's like it was quite good, but not spectacular either. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't just he was 15th in high end as well.
That's the result for me. Like top 10 in Cesalines, which is one of the Morocco challenges. That's good. Winning UMAG, great stuff. You're beating Conti punchy sprinters, basically. I would classify this as. And then Classic Agen getting 15th, which is against World Tour competition. And yes, there's a few other youngsters that did very well in that race as well. I remember Hector Alvarez playing a pretty significant role there as well, the youngster on Little Trek development team. But like you're between the likes of Igor Arieta, McNulty, Tim Wellens. Those are pretty damn good riders. So I'm looking at not just him, but also Kubis, who's been great on the Unibatida Rockets there's fuel in the Slovakian environment. Because after Sagan, I'm sorry, but it was nothing, no?
They had Sverchek, who...
True, but never really broke, you know?
He performs once a year in the U23 World Championships race. And then, yeah, I kind of expected him to kick on. But you're right, it's... I think it's time for Slovakia, because I may as well preview it now. Tomorrow begins Extremadura, which is a 0.1 women's race. Maybe there's a Facebook stream. There's a TT in the morning, a sprint in the afternoon, but there's a 10K 8% climb on the weekend. It's a proper GC race, and they have one of their biggest stars starting there, her road season, Victoria Kladnova, who was multiple medalist, who medaled in every single discipline in World Championships Juniors last year, including winning the mountain bike. But a track you're going, starts tomorrow, no confirmed start list yet. But there's also Osterlotzer on Kucha, there's UNOX, UAE, Team ADQ, so, yeah, a Movistar. Damn, Kat Ferguson's not doing it.
Exactly.
Where's Kat Ferguson?
She's going to ride Roubaix this year, apparently. So
she hasn't raced yet.
She has not raced yet, but she's obviously focusing on the classics. I don't think so. I think... Did she do any cyclocross in the off-season?
Yeah, maybe the CX and had an effect. Yeah.
But quick question. Just out of pure curiosity by myself, we have the Visma Lisa bike white jersey squad in the men's, where you've got like the Uiterbrooks and so forth, like the young kids on the block riding a specific set of calendar. Does that also exist in the women's squad? Because I'm looking at...
She don't need that.
Straight to the Tour de France fan.
No, I don't think so. But no, yeah, you're right. The team is like half the teams. The average age of the team is like 24 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm keen to watch that race tomorrow. Hopefully, Little Trek send the Holmgren sisters, who were good in Tour de l'Avenir last year, good climbing prospects. Or I think Isabella in particular. Okay. So yeah, Extremadura, watch that this week if you're starved of a stage race. And I guess before we get into the other previews, Benji, we've got Fabian Doubey.
Fabian Doubey. Yes. Basically, if you don't know who this man is, which I think counts for a lot of our audience most likely, he's rider on Total Energy who just won the Tour de Rwanda, and there was some drama in the race. Towards the end of the race, I think on the Mur de Kigali stage, which is the stage known for like its cobble climb that really could be like a punchy classics kind of vibe. On that stage, there were incidents on the parcours. I would like to classify it as a two-pronged approach here. On one end, you've got the people that are saying the race was unsafe and therefore it should stop during the race and before the race. And then on the other side, you've got people saying, oh, Fabian Doubey just wanted to stop the race because he was in the lead of GC and he didn't want Henrik Mullebrand, who was second, to beat him on the stage and beat him in GC. Now, I think from the footage I've seen from certain crashes in this race, I swear there was a crash, I think Willie Smith shared it on Twitter as well, where like 20 riders slipped over like a, what do you call that? We call that a zebra pot. The white lines to cross the street.
Zebra crossing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, like it looked like there were cannonballs or skittles going down. It was like, it looked really dangerous.
Yeah.
But that wasn't shared. There's a L'Equipe article. That opinion wasn't shared by the other riders. You know, they said Fabian Doubey took it upon himself to cancel the race, whereas Henok Mullerbrand, who was 6 seconds behind in GC, said it suited him very well. This never would have been stopped for a few drops of rain in Europe. Belgian Milan Donny, this is an article in L'Equipe. If we cancel the stage here, then we won't have a single race in Flanders, as the wet and slippery cobblestones there don't prevent a race from taking place. Now, bear in mind, this 7th stage was a test for the World Championships route, and they cancelled it because it rained a bit. And what I do not understand here is they did cancel the race.
Yeah.
They neutralized it, restarted, then cancelled. And yet they've reported Doubey to the Disciplinary Commission for damaging inappropriate behavior and damage to the image of the sport. But they cancelled it.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. So basically, the way I see it is, yes, it's very much possible that Fabian Doubey thought to himself, okay, if I can get this race stopped, then I could win the race without having to really fight for it by the end. And that's convenient for me. But at the end of the day, it is the UCI commissaire's responsibility and the organizer, just the decision-making and the race itself, to decide whether the race is safe or not, regardless of a rider stepping up in the first place to shout, I feel unsafe doing this race. I do not believe that Doubey was the only single rider in this entire peloton that felt like this was an unsafe environment to do the race either. But to be clear, it's possible that Doubey had ulterior motives. But regardless of that, we got to look at it in this way. The UCI stopped the race, and they would only do so for safety precautions. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Did you stop the race because Fabian Doubey complained? No, that's not a valid reason. You stopped the race because of safety problems. How can you then go back on that and saying, oh, we're going to put Doubey in front of the Disciplinary Commission because he complained that the race was unsafe, that we cancelled because it was unsafe. Like, you agreed that it was unsafe. Otherwise, you wouldn't have cancelled it.
Yeah,
then why are you reporting him? Like, that's one thing. Hot take. The way I look at it is, UCI commissaire at the race itself agreed that the situation was unsafe. Then the UCI itself from higher up thought to himself, that's allegedly, that's my thoughts on it. In my opinion, they thought to themselves, this was supposed to be a huge test for Rwanda. This is bad for the image. We gotta throw Fabian Doubey as a scapegoat here. That's the way I look at it. There is no valid reason for Doubey to be sent to the Disciplinary Commission as a follow-up of the UCI themselves deciding to stop the race for safety purposes.
Guess who was happy to keep riding in head first into trucks for 2 stages in early February?
Total Energy?
Fabian Doubey finished 10th in Passage. He didn't abandon that race when all the riders were like, this is out of control. There's cars in the course. He was like, he didn't give a shit. He just wanted to win GC in Rwanda.
But that's irrelevant to me because the UCI decided that it was not safe enough to ride. Otherwise, they don't cancel it.
Exactly. Just say, Fabian Doubey, we're continuing the race. And if the other rest of the riders are going to continue the race, he's going to continue the race if you want to win GC. So, yeah, it's a bit strange. I mean, we weren't there. But, yeah, not the test event they would have hoped for. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
But also, there's now even more uncertainty about the actual event of the World Championships, because I swear I read an article about a week and a half ago, maybe, roughly, about the European Parliament now bringing up the fact that the actual war trouble in the area across the border in Congo, that has led to the European Parliament voting against the UCI World Championships being held there. But I don't know if that actually affects anything.
So, yeah, the European Parliament on 14 February, it's from Reuters. This is 19 days ago, but I saw something more recently, thought a freeze on EU aid to Rwanda over the Congo conflict. Mm-hmm. And on 21 February, the European Union summoned the ambassador of Rwanda to the EU for please explain as well. Human Rights Watch has criticised the European Parliament or the European Union executives for inaction. And more recently, 6 days ago, the European Parliament called for the end to Rwanda Mineral Pact over the conflict links to the links to the conflict in the Congo. So this doesn't seem to be going away, and the European Union is coming under a lot of pressure, and we'll see whether they do anything further. But yeah, if there's like a do not travel order in place, or a do not do business order in place, or I don't know, sanctions or whatever. I mean, it's like if you're running a team, Benji, you're running a company, you have obligations to your employees, or even you're a federation. Like, I'm not sure of Belgium. I'm sure Belgium has a equivalence, but Australia has like travel directives to all the various countries, and it's like red light, green light, orange light, and more or less is how the Australian one, the DFAT one, is. If there's a red light to a country, I mean, you as an individual may elect, I'm willing to tolerate this risk, but as a federation, you cannot send athletes there.
Yeah, but for me, the other question is, the article is from Tutobici from the 24th of February, and that actually includes that on top of the freezing of European aid to Rwanda, there was also the actual request of cancellation of the road event planned in September, and the motion was voted with 443 votes in favor and 4 against. I don't know if a European Parliament vote has any relevance, whether that does anything, though. Because they can vote what they want, but I don't know if there's an outcome to that. I'm not an expert in European Parliament and voting of that Parliament. That's the one where I'm like, do they have the power in anything to have any say-so in this? That's the thing I don't know. So
Switzerland's not in the European Union. Does that mean they're in the European Parliament?
Is Switzerland not in the European Union?
They don't use the euro.
That's true. Swiss franc, you're right. Jesus.
So, and the UCI is Swiss entity.
I'm also not in the European Union, technically.
You're not?
No.
Norway's not either.
Andorra?
I'm not. No, Andorra's not in the EU. If Andorra was in the EU, you think they have 10% tax?
Fair.
There's a border. There's a real border here. They like a full border. Yeah, what do you mean you know? Then why are you asking is it the EU? Do you think you don't have that between Belgium and France?
Yeah, but you've got like 20 toll gates in France that you have to pass and pay.
The supermarket names just change. Benji, I'm pretty sure Benji was like saying that Wallonia and like Flanders should build a wall there. What are you trying?
What the fuck?
You're like, we need to build a wall, dude.
No, I said we should ban all banks from the Netherlands and Belgium. That's what I said.
I don't think that would be a good outcome for everybody.
I don't think so either, actually.
Anyway, I don't think this is the last of it. Hopefully the conflict is resolved as quickly as possible, but yeah, I think the Wells is still going to come under a lot of pressure, and it's not going to have even if it goes ahead, it's going to be very, very strange, I think. In other race announcements, the Tour de France has announced the stage reveal of the Grand Départ in Barcelona in 2026, and it looks like a TTT. We all know that last TTT in Barcelona went off swimmingly, and then the second stage, I think, will be a hilly sprint finishing in Montjuic, which is the little hill to the southwest of Barcelona city. Then stage 3, we don't know. You could finish it. It could be a mountaintop finish. Like, you can go from Barcelona and go up, say, Portenay or La Molina. I don't think you can make your way to Andorra. No. And it's not going to go through Andorra. So I think it's going to go towards like a Voltaire 2000. Oh,
that's also a possibility.
That's my guess.
In Catalonia itself.
I think it's going to be Voltaire 2000.
Okay. I'm not against that. But like, let's start at the start. You've got the TTT at the start. You said it already. The last TTT in Barcelona basically happened in the dark, and that's why Remco was a bit unhappy at the end of the day. That's one thing. I'm guessing they're going to do it a bit earlier in the day, hopefully. I would like to go there, by the way. So let's make it happen. Then that TTT is also on the Montjuic and Olympic, whatever it's called, climb, like a duo of 2 climbs basically at the end of that team time trial. And those same 2 climbs are the exact 2 same climbs that we also see in that second stage. And there was some criticism online of like, are they out of creativity to have the same finish on the team time trial on day 1 as day 2? First of all, one thing out of the way, apparently the team time trial is the way Paris-Nice does it. So it's not like you have a full team and then you have to finish with 4 riders in the same time, and then the rider of the 4th rider or so counts, or 5th rider. That's not going to be the case here, apparently. It's individual rider count. So we might have a mix of strategies where certain teams might go for, let's stick together as much as possible until the line, versus other teams that will, I think, be the most of the GC teams, try and launch their GC rider on one of the climbs and maybe a duo of GC riders on the second last climb or something, and have them try and get to the finish line as fast as possible, because, well, at the end of the day, it's the individual time of the rider that counts. So honestly, I love that. I like to see things that might inspire different strategies and team time trials to occur. That aside, I think the perspective on the Montjuic being repeated on stage 1 and stage 2 depends on what kind of viewer you are. If you are in person for Barcelona, for people that go to Barcelona for the Grand Départ, that's huge. That's fantastic. You got to go to the same exact space for 2 stages. That's
close
amazing.
To the city, good place to watch the race. Yeah.
But if you
can't have a sprint in Barcelona. It's not possible. Like, I mean, in Barcelona. I mean, you could, but
Diagonal?
on Avinguda Diagonal in Eixample. I mean, there's tram crossings and shit. It'd be a disaster.
Will the church be finished?
Sagrada Familia.
Yeah.
One day.
How long have they been working on it? 155 years?
They're trying to reclaim the apartments across the road to extend it, I think.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't mind it too much because it's 2 different race formats. You're watching a TTT and then a road race finishing up it. So I don't mind it too much. Maybe could there have been another hill or area they could have found? Maybe a sprint on the beach. I don't know. But stage 3 will be interesting to see. I think, I mean, selfishly, I'm obviously very happy that it's starting in Barcelona. We can't wait to watch and go. It is strange that the Tour de France starts in Italy last year, which has its own Grand Tour, and then again, a Spanish city or autonomous region bids to bring the Tour de France there, despite having its own Grand Tour, for which it also paid money to begin in 2023. It just goes to show that the Tour de France is so much bigger than the Giro and the Vuelta at the moment, that these large tourist boards or cities, even having their own races, are like, no, we need the Tour. We need the Tour coming in.
But I want to continue on top of that point, because next to the Barcelona Grand Départ, we've got the announcement from the BBC last week, where they basically said that there will be a Grand Départ in the UK for both the Tour de France and the Tour de France Femmes in 2027, which, for the sake of UK cycling, is pretty damn huge. I still vividly remember the sprint between Cavendish and Hausler, where Cavendish took himself out, and also, unfortunately, Hausler, which was, back in the day, one of my favorite riders, in that sprint in Harrogate? I'm not sure about that. There was also
Harrogate was Worlds 2019.
Yeah, but I feel like, was there not a Leeds Harrogate or something there?
Could have
I
been.
know, could be wrong. There was a Sheffield stage 2, if I recall, where my other favorite rider from the early 2010s, Vincenzo Nibali, decided to chop up the competition left and right. Full sung rolling attacks. Nibali came over. Yes, I rewatched that with my wife multiple times this week, but that is irrelevant to the cause. Nibali won that stage, and he dominated that 2014 Tour de France. I vividly remember that, and I'm not even British. So I think this is going to be good for the sake of UK cycling, but it's a complete opposite to what we are seeing when it comes to the broadcast problems of the country. Because if we haven't brought the whole point home yet, the ITV free-to-air coverage of the Tour de France in the UK will stop, I think, at the end of 2025.
This is the last year,
in 2026, it will be broadcasted behind the paywall, which is the Warner Bros. Discovery paywall, etc. Now, that's one thing. And I was reading through an interesting discussion on r/Peloton, a Reddit page, and it discussed that certain sports, like for example football, horse racing, rugby union football, tennis, multi-sport events like Olympics, Paralympics, there's a specific set of events in the UK that is in a list that is required by some governing body, I don't know what it is, to be broadcasted free to air. And those events include FIFA World Cup, all the matches, FIFA Women's World Cup, all the matches, European Championships, UEFA, all the matches, Scottish Cup final of football, apparently, FA Cup final, horse racing, the Epsom Derby, whatever that is, Grand National, Challenge Cup of Rugby League, Wimbledon Championships final, both men's and women's. How can we get the Tour de France on that list?
I mean, these are British events though. The Epsom Derby, Wimbledon. It's
FIFA
like how
World Cup.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's a French event, but it's a global event. I understand it. Yeah, it'd be ideal if it was on that list. It's just like the Tour de France in France is on. The French have their own list of events like that, and the Tour de France is on that list as a protected property for broadcast rights. Same with the Giro. It's, to me, how can you pay so much? And I know they get the tourism money in, but how can you pay so much money to bring the event there?
Yeah.
Which is taxpayer money, and then people have to pay as well to watch it on TV for a race that's going past them in their own home. That just seems strange. Like, you'd think it would be on a public broadcaster.
Because, like, now that ITV on paper does not have the rights for including 2027, is there a possibility that ITV might find a way to then make a deal with Warner Bros. Discovery to have the first 3 stages on their platform? How do you see that?
And that's happened in the past. Is that, I can't remember, it might have been the Rugby World Cup. It might have been It might have been one of the Wimbledon finals or some tennis matches, but I remember some tennis player making it far in the final rounds of a competition, and basically the entity that had the private rights for it came under such pressure, they were like forced at midnight to sub-license the rights to a public broadcaster so people could watch it. It might have been Wimbledon. I have a feeling it was the UK. And so you would hope that if the Grand Départ is beginning in the UK, that TNT is forced to sub-license, or Warner Brothers forced to sub-license it to. But it's their rights. They bought it. They paid a shitload of money for it. So it's ultimately, should be theirs to do with as they wish. But
do we know if this deal by Warner Bros. And ITV not having it includes the women's race as well?
No idea, but I say so. There's no way ITV just has the women's race.
Yeah. I don't expect that either.
No. That's
for the sake of the Grand Départ of the women's race that year. It would be very useful to have that, though.
Yeah. There was of course, a lot of people joking that it became so expensive for people to watch cycling in the UK. They're having to bring the Tour de France to their doorstep. But
£370.
It's
ridiculous.
Don't want to be too negative, but in 2014, when it was a big success in Leeds, Wiggins had just won gold in 2012, the Tour in 2012. Froome won the Tour in 2013. Sky were big, bad, famous. It's a bit different, the landscape now.
Is there a way that this incentivizes Radcliffe to not throw the team away yet?
True, yeah. If you're the only British World Tour team, then in 2027 you got a big Grand Départ. Yeah, it is a cherry. It is a carrot. But I think it's good. Britain's one of the biggest economies in Europe. I'd love to see a German Grand Départ. What was the last one? Dusseldorf, 2019?
Valverde kneecap breaking.
TTT or TT?
TT, individual.
And then Turnison won the sprint?
That was Brussels, my friend. I know if you turn the flag around, it looks the same. But
yeah, it's all bish bosh.
Brussels Grand Départ was shit. I'm sorry. I'm Belgian. I'm going to say it.
But yeah,
out of every bloody city in Belgium to do a Grand Départ, Brussels is fucking boring. No
What's wrong with
offense,
Brussels?
but
What do you mean Brussels is boring, Benji? You go 20 Ks, you're in the Tour of Flanders parcours.
no.
Yes, you do. How far west is Oudenaarde from Brussels?
Like a full stage and a half away.
It is
Oh, no,
no
okay.
way
It is
it is. No way.
I reckon, imagine an Ypres Grand Départ.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great.
Finish on the Camelberg.
Benji, I was talking about the biggest economies in Europe, not Ypres. I was talking about Great Britain.
It is. Have you not seen the treasure of potatoes we have in West Flanders?
Yeah.
Tractor economy.
Chips are good. Tractor economy. Yeah, I'm really surprised to not see a German one so far. That would be interesting. But we'll wait and see. 2026, where does it start? Barcelona, we just did that. 27
Slovenian
UK.
Grand Départ. When?
But it's so expensive. So it's like Barcelona, like you have to have a lot of money to have it. Speaking of route reveals, we just had the Milano-Sanremo Women's route reveal, 156 kilometers long. The final is the same. They do the Capo climbs, then the Cipressa, which I think men's solo from Cipressa hasn't happened for a long time.
Yeah.
If they do Cipressa, then the Poggio after some flat, and then the flat finish in Sanremo on the Via Roma. So the final's the same. Some people saying, oh, why isn't it longer? Listen, if you watch women's cycling, it does not make the race better if you make it way harder and way longer. I'm telling you. Okay?
It puts them closer together, which is actually not really what you look for.
What do you mean?
As in, we saw the Tour de France stage in, was it last year or the year before? 2 years ago, I think. The hill stage, for example, between Van Vleuten and Vollering, I felt like because the race was that much longer, it was a very close race, but not in necessarily a more spectacular race, because everybody was just a bit more passive at the end of that day, if I recall correctly. While I expect people to be more offensive in this kind. Also, I'm sorry, if you had 30K flat to it, who cares?
Yeah, like it's not a question of whether women can do it. Of course they could do it if it's 200Ks. Of course they could do it.
But Genoa pace.
But the first 2 hours of omloop, no one raced. No one wanted to ride at 170 watts on the front of the peloton. Seriously.
It's true.
So, this is Sanremo is all about how the Capo feeds into the run into the Cipressa, how the Cipressa will go, fatiguing some of the versatile sprinters, then the Poggio all-out attack. It's got that. I'm so excited it's in. I was a little bit concerned with the radio silence about the route. I was like, what's going on? So I'm glad it's happening. If there's Demi Vollering going solo on the Cipressa, if FDJ Suez launch a train for her there, is realistic, is possible. It's more realistic than in the men's. And I wonder if they're going to do it.
I am very intrigued. First of all, they have to hard pace the Cipressa regardless of what their plan is. Because you don't want to get over the Cipressa and have a fully fit Wiebes next to Lotte Kopecky. Because I'd expect Lotte Kopecky to survive Cipressa. Okay. Obviously, we haven't seen a race this year yet, so I don't really know what to expect when it comes to Lotte Kopecky this year, I would say. And that is a factor. But you should, on paper, say that Lotte Kopecky should be able to survive the Cipressa. That's my view. Wiebes is the one you want to get rid of to make it 1v1 instead of 1v2. Does that make sense?
Because Wiebes, I'm not sure you can drop her on the Poggio. The Poggio is not that hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not that hard. And with the men, it's all about, it's still a full peloton sometimes with sprint lead-outs and positioning, and then it splits. Whereas if the women make it so, that's why I'm keen to see. That's why I really like when there's a men and women's version of the same race, because there's different race dynamics. If it's thinned out on the Cipressa already and you come to the Poggio with a peloton of 20 riders or less, it's such a different dynamic because to fight, say you're a second-tier contender, you want to be in P8. It's not so hard to be in P8 at the bottom of the Poggio in a group of 20. In a group of 100 in the men's race, when there's Pippo Ganna chopping you, it's different. So I'm really interested to see how FDJ play it and SD works. That's the story of this whole season, is how those two teams, maybe a lot of class just gets in the breakaway again and wins. Maybe no one wants to chase the breakaway.
Nah.
I mean, Voss Benji, she's been waiting for this sort of race for her whole career.
She has, but like we said, FDJ Suez will try to burn the entire peloton on the Cipressa because they want the harder race as possible. And on paper, the climbs are easier than an LBL parcours where Voss tries to hold on the Rochefoucauld and tries to basically get over the Boncel part after that and hope that she's still in the running. On MSR, you'd say the parcours is definitely easier, but it's going to be very explosive. So it's all about whether they can hold on or not. Right now, I'm leaning towards I expect riders to hold on the Cipressa, and I expect group dynamic to be intriguing on the Poggio.
I don't see how Demi wins. I don't think it's possible.
I think she's going to have a hard time winning that race.
I just don't see it because, I think Kopeck's never letting her go, never letting her anticipate. She can be on her wheel, and then how does she beat Kopecky in a sprint? So I think it's going to be tough for Demi.
For me, it's Kopecky or a flyer right now.
Yep. But I'm really looking forward to it, so I can't wait for that race to be on. It also gives us something in the early afternoon before the men's is. It's on the same day, right?
I haven't checked actually. The 22nd of March. Is that the same?
Yeah, it must be because the men's is on Saturday normally, so I doubt they're going to do it on a.
Correct.
It's on a Saturday, and Binder.
Is the Binder day after?
Is before.
Wait.
Binder's the week before. So if you don't know, Trofeo Alfredo Binder was always on the Sunday after Sanremo. It's the women's very prestigious one-day race that's been going for a long, long time. And that's now a week before Sanremo Women. So we've got two cool races to watch in back-to-back weekends.
Exactly, and add a Trofeo Laigueglia to that, or does that exist? Women's one?
No.
Okay. Add a Trofeo Laigueglia and stuff like that, and maybe we'll have a whole Italian month as well. That would be a cool vibe. But anyway, that's women's Milano-Sanremo. I think we got to talk about the races coming up then, which is also quite an intriguing subject. We've got Strade Bianche coming this Saturday, if I recall. These RTS races are mostly on Saturday. And we had some updates when it comes to riders. Like we said, Van der Poel showed up for Le Samyn, but he is most likely not riding Strade Bianche. That was pretty much confirmed by Christophe Roodhoofd from Alpecin. We had a rider that is out, Maxime van Gils, due to flu. So I was actually expecting a good Maxime van Gils on this parcours because last year he was good. And he was also pretty damn good this year at, was it Andalusia?
Yep.
So I was expecting form there, but that is not necessarily happening. The men's race is basically 97% the same parcours as last year, which let's have this discussion now. So up to 2024, 2023 was the last year where we had the old parcours of Strade Bianche, which was a lighter parcours, a shorter parcours, and they basically took, correct me if I'm wrong, the last 40 kilometers, what came after the Monte Santa Maria, and they made that happen twice in the parcours from 2024 onwards. In doing so, adding X amount of kilometers to the race, adding a double Colle Penzuto and so forth to the parcours, and as a consequence, there's more altitude meters, it's a longer race. From my view, this is RCS trying to make Strade Bianche a captivating, longer and harder race to have an argument to one day have it fit in the monument category, which is a discussion that has been going on for a decade now, which is a long time. But last year we had mixed opinions on this. I think you were on the spot pretty much with your opinion last year. I was on the let's wait and see part, because looking at the parcours, regardless of whether you see the 2023 version or the 2024 version or 2025, the launching pad to me is always Monte Santa Maria. No?
Yeah, that's where the race splits apart. but now it's just way more attritional before. So, I mean, if you want the proof of why I don't think it's a positive,
Okay.
Mathieu van der Poel wanted to do a one-day race this week. Went to Samyn. Mathieu van der Poel is going to be in Italy, racing in Tirreno on Monday. He's not doing Strade Bianche. You know why? Because it's too hard now.
Yep.
Like, you have to be a climber. I think they've made it too unbalanced. I mean, I would love to see him again. If Van der Poel was at Strade, I'd be so hyped to see him against Poggi. Yeah. So it's a real shame. But the start list it's not like and Bernal would have been there and it would have been great. But all I keep going back to is one of my favorite one-day race memories is the 2021 Strade Bianche, and I think they're moving it away from that happening where Cancellara, Sagan, Van Aert, Van der Poel, bigger riders could compete because it wasn't so much climbing.
Yeah, I fully agree with your take there. There was a balance between punchers, climbers, and even classics riders that you might not even classify as punchers.
Won like twice.
Exactly, even though in some years I would classify him as a bit of a puncher. But your point still stands. Van Marke was competing for top 10 positions in those races. You're not going to tell me Van Marke was a puncher. And like that balance to me is gone now. Because the race is longer and harder when it comes to altitude meters within a certain set of kilometers, it is, just like RVV's new parcours, more attuned to riders like Pogacar. And when Pogacar shows up, at the end of the day, we said it last year before the race started, everybody was shocked to see Pogacar right away on the Monte Santa Maria and do a 70-kilometer solo. Honestly, is it weird to say that I'd be surprised if he doesn't do it on Saturday?
I would find it surprising. It's safer.
Like,
the safest thing for UAE to do is to make the race single file for as long as his domestiques can do it, and then he goes clear and rides solo. Safest thing to do.
I think so as well. And inherently, that gravel sector, Monte Santa Maria, is the one where you can do the perfect lead out, can have the longest effort for Pogacar to make the initial gap, and then Group 2 syndrome kicks in. On paper, your domestiques have done enough damage to make the second group have limited domestiques. And we've seen the similar scenario, both when it comes to not having as many domestiques in Group 2 to do anything anymore, plus the effect of psychology where riders are now thinking, okay, I got to get my best possible result to get second here because they don't believe they can catch Pogacar anymore. That combination of feelings, I expect Pogacar to ride away on Monte Santa Maria and never be seen again. And I'd be surprised if that doesn't happen. For the sake of entertainment, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it's a close race. I hope Christian bloody Scaroni can hold on for dear life. Like anyone. I need someone to be able to hold on for the sake of this race.
Scaroni, I mean, I don't, then it's a bit much, no? Like,
yeah.
It's like, you can win, you can follow in Laigueglia, but if he starts following Pogacar, then like UAE, the contract, they're like, he's the Johnny Narvaez of last year.
Yeah.
All right.
It's already the case, no? Is Scaroni out of a contract at the end of the year?
No, but if it's starting to get relegated, then his contract is basically void because the model contract is that you sign with the UCI World Team. And then if they don't have a world license, you can change teams. No one did it last relegation cycle. Agents maybe don't realize what's in their riders' contracts, but that's the case.
There was a bit of a thing like that on the women's side, no? What's her name?
But you can't. You have to do it straight away. You can't ride for the team for a year as a pro team and then be like, actually, I want to change. You have to do it that off season.
Demon Descender, Serrat is it? Ex-rider. Now EF.
You're right. Kobol, Cedrine Kobol. Yes. That was different. They fucked up the paperwork. Well, no, it's not different. It's the same clause. And I feel really sorry for them.
Yeah, but it's a fuck up. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, it was her right to do it. I feel bad, but it was her right.
They should have got a buyout or something, and maybe they did in the end. But I
don't think they did.
I feel bad for them. That's different to me, but it's the same clause in her UCI model contract.
Question. So, completely relevant to Strade. What are the odds that Astana gives a multi-dollar contract to multi-million-dollar contract? Multi-dollar is not that much money. Multi-million-dollar contract at the end of the year to Primoz Roglic to join Astana?
But if I was Roglic, I would go to Astana. Why would you not?
Yeah.
If they give him the bag, you do all these Italian races where he's so good.
Yeah.
He won Emilia. Like, he's good on their calendar. They don't expect that
But can you replace Scaroni, my friend? Have we seen Scaroni ride?
If you put Scaroni and Roglic in Emilia on Astana.
Laigueglia.
Oh. Unbelievable. But yeah, like Tirreno, great finishes for him. He won like 3 stages in GC like last year or 2 years ago. Go to the Giro, podium candidate. Didn't they do that? Yeah, I think it would work. And if I was right, Astana, Benji, they got the whole team performing. The whole team is performing. Even like random guys like Alessandro Romele is coming 8th in a Belgian ChatGPT race. Usually they go the wrong way and the photographer has to put them on a motorbike 40 k's into the race to take them back to the bus.
Even Bettiol was alive again today.
Bettiol was alive. If you're Roglic, it's a sweet team for that, I think.
But we're going off topic.
Oh, Strade. Podium. Okay, Pogačar, of course, and then
I'm saying Bilbao top 10s because he's ridden the race 3 times, Bilbao, and he's top 10 every single time. I feel like he's an underrated rider for a top 5.
Bilbao knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Pogačar's going to attack. Some GC rider's going to try and follow him and be a hero, Sepp Kuss. And Bilbao's going to be like, you're an idiot. And he's going to sit in the wheels. He's going to descend his way back without even pedaling. And then he's going to come top 10 and get a lot of UCI points. Van Aert, though, I've got to say, I wasn't too moved by his positioning in the UAE. Like, you miss one crosswind split, I forgive you. You miss every single one every single time. I don't know. I'm going Pogačar, Gregoire, Pidcock. Gregoire, I think, is in unbelievable shape, actually.
I see Gregoire doing well as well. Riders that I also expect to do well is Ben Tollett, Mark Hirschi. I am expecting Scaroni to step up in Strade Bianche. With the form he's shown in the last 3 weeks, I expect him to top 5 this race. I think he's going to be the Van Gils.
Will make it suits him.
Yeah, they're going to make it as hard. Also, regardless of technique, it's probably important for this race.
It's not that important.
At the end of the day, this Strade Bianche has become so difficult, like we literally just mentioned, that it's become a race that is... The truth comes out at the end. Does that make sense?
Where it just becomes... It gets thinned out with 100... It's in a line, and then 100 k's to go, the race explodes.
Yeah.
And then you're chasing in groups of 1s and 2s and 3s, climbing. It's not as... Of course, Pidcock does have an advantage with his technical ability, of course, and Bilbao, but...
Vácek.
I'm keen to see how he goes. I'm excited to see... I'm keen to watch, as always. In the women's, it's a slightly easier... Well, quite a bit easier route, but still the same final with Le Tolfe and Pinzuto, which are the launching pads before the climb up to Siena. We don't have Lotte Kopecky, Benji, which is a real surprise to me. The winner of Strade last year and in 2022. She's opting to prepare... preparing for Sanremo, which I can somewhat understand. She's won Strade before. It's the first edition of Sanremo, historical, etc. But Vollering is indeed there. Kim Pienaar is there. Nuvia Doma. The usual suspects.
Van der Breggen,
Schweinberg. Vash should be good. Vash is in good. Yeah. Longo Borghini, of course, who was a very, very strong in UAE. I'm going for an outsider here. I'm going for Pienaar. I think she's improved even more. What she showed on her feet, it was another step up. Mm-hmm. She's still improving. I think she's got the technical ability from, I think she maybe ridden on gravel a fair bit, mountain bike, I can't remember. And I'm going with Pienaar.
I'm going the safe one. I'm going for Demi Vollering on this race. I think there's competition here in the fact that she's got a team around her. It's a relatively strong team, but at the end of the day, it's not an unbeatable team to the point that she might get counted by the likes of Faulkner, by the likes of those types of riders, Schweinberger, like you mentioned. And that I see as a weakness there potentially, that could happen. Vash could start attacking, Van der Breggen could start attacking. How, ooh, question. Remember, Giro d'Italia 2019? Carapaz wins at the end.
Mm-hmm.
We have Nibali and Roglic looking at each other.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds that we see Vollering and Anna van der Breggen looking at each other and a third dog rides away with the victory?
Listen, I like Demi Vollering. She's really good for the sport. She threw away a win on Saturday for literally no reason. Like, if you're her DS at FDJ, do not let her make any in-race decisions like that.
Yep. So
the scenario you're describing, Benji, is completely plausible because it might not be Lotte Klaes attacking. If you like, Demi's a great rider, very strong, but you can't give Pinar or Faulkner 30 seconds, a minute for free, and then be like, all right, let's start chasing.
Yeah.
So they're a different caliber of riders. So yeah, that is very plausible. I mean, that almost happened in 20 when Faulkner got banned for giving the big in 23 when she had the glucose monitor patch and got disqualified. She nearly won that way, from memory.
True. So I expect Lippert to be okay, even though she was shit at Omloop.
She was, but it was a very strange race for the women. But still, you'd think she could follow on a punch like that. I'm very hyped to see how everybody goes in women's Strade, of course. Paris-Nice also begins. Just to keep it moving, we've got two. It's the classic Paris-Nice. We have two seemingly innocuous sprint stages, and which could be affected by crosswinds, as well as some bony sprints uphill where, Mads Pedersen, you never know what could happen. We have a team time trial where the first rider sets the time. Very technical and hilly TTT. I think this is going to be different strategies. I can't wait to see what the teams cook up with stage 3. We then have Loge de Garde from 23. That's where David Gaudu went with Pogacar, and Vingegaard was overconfident and got dropped. And Pogacar won. Stage 5 is a Moor stage with loads of short hills. That's a big GC stage. It finishes with a super hard 1,300 meters at like 12% on a very narrow road. Stage 6 is a Mads Pedersen style hilly sprint stage. Stage 7, long climbs, a lot of altitude gain, but they're not that hard. Finishing on Oran, 7K, 7%, but they're climbing sort of all day. And then stage 8 is the classic Nice stage with Col de la Porte, Col de la Pays, Col d'Ez, and Col de Quatre Chemins, which is really 4K is about 8.5% before the finish in Nice. I think.
Do we know what the exact finish of stage 1 is? Because that's in Bellegarde, which is the first stage of Étoile de Bessèges. Is it that same uphill finish or is it a flat sprint?
No. Stage 1 is in our nose. Stage 2.
Oh, okay. This is very confusing.
Yeah. No, it's a flat sprint. So stage 2 is usually supposed to be a crosswind stage. Wind is predicted not to be that strong. Merlier's here, Pedersen's here, Coy's doing Tirreno, not Paris-Nice. So I think we're going to see Trek wanting to get rid of Merlier or put him under pressure. That's what I would do.
Good luck.
Well, you say good luck, but I don't know. Technical run-ins make it a bit hard. Like, remember that Tirreno sprint bout? What's the Tirreno sprint where he just collapsed last year?
Whoa.
He just started going backwards.
I could not tell you which day that was, to be honest.
Like, there's a reason he's so good in the desert, and it's because it's flat.
Yeah. But let's be honest, we're all here for the mountain stages mostly. I love Paris-Nice.
The mountain stage got mid, I thought.
I agree, but Tirreno was even worse, so we got to take what we have. Paris-Nice parcours, those mountain stages, Loge de Garde, like you said, then the punchy style finish on La Côte Saint-André, like you also said, but it's also that Oran stage. I'm looking at these mountain stages and I'm saying to myself, on paper, regardless of what these mountain stages look like, Jonas Vingegaard is here with Matteo Jorgensen by his side. Jorgensen looks in fantastic form. Vingegaard won Algarve with a fantastic time trial, looked okay on Foya, as in he didn't have teammates around him, so I'm not surprised that he wasn't able to drop everybody on a climb like that. He ended up being dropped actually by a couple of riders, including Almeida. So that was a bit disappointing probably as a result. Now, looking at Paris-Nice, I'm sorry, but Almeida's here. But I still believe that Visma Lease Bike should win this race.
Oh, they're the heavy favourites. You got the returning winner and Jonas Vingegaard. Yeah, you're the heavy favourites. No doubt about it. Schelmos is here for Trek. He's good with the bonus sprints, these short climbs. He's in good shape, as he showed. He's in good shape, but I got to say I wasn't that impressed either in the French classics.
Who? Sorry?
Schelmose.
Yeah.
Like, good shape, but also he still got wrecked.
Top 5 is definitely possible and realistic, but not for the victory for me. It's like he could get third.
Ben O'Connor's here. I believe he's been at altitude. We have Aronsman, Felix Gull, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe have Florian Lipovitz and Vlasov. I thought Martinez was starting, but they have Vlasov on a stage here last year. I'm keen to see how.
Where's Martinez?
No idea. Santi just won Valenciana. It's a good route for Santi. He won a stage here last year with Plappy when they went clear. Lenny Martinez here, of course. So it's a decent start list, but again, you have to say it's the problem with the calendar is there's just too much thinning out, and we don't have enough. There's no Roglic, no Remco, no Ayuso either, no Adam Yates.
Yeah,
they're in Tirreno, and so if Visma can do a good TTT and then can be defensive and play Jorgensen with Vingegaard on, say, Oran or Loge de Garde, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for the other teams.
Do you, like, the way I see it, on paper, Jonas Vingegaard is of, like, the stature that he can claim full leadership in any stage race, but Jorgensen's been so strong in the Cobble Classics that he is a valid second option for GC that can be looked at. So it goes both ways right now, to the point that both strategies are viable to me. Both, if you go all out for Vingegaard straight up, I'm okay with that. But if you play the 2 leadership role, I'm also okay with that. But then you need to make sure that you don't create a situation like Foya, where Vingegaard has to attack off a tempo that does not exist because the only rider you have next to you is Jorgensen, who is also co-leader. In that scenario, one has to try and help the other in some fashion.
Keen to see how Castrillo and Romeo go for Movistar. They're good in UAE, as well as, who's going to top 5? There's Schachmann. Quickstep will do a good TTT. Schachmann's good on these sort of, they're not the hardest mountaintop finishes. They're not the steepest, except for the stage 5 one. Schachmann looks good. I think Schachmann's definitely going to top 10. The stage I'm most looking forward to, stage 5, the steep hill stage. That could be the one actually where you might see attacks from far. Because they're so steep. So I'm really keen to see that. Almeida is not looking forward to it. Nor why do they keep saying Almeida to Paris-Nice, bro? He can't ride in the crosswinds, can't position, can't accelerate.
There's a mountain suck in Italy apparently in
Tirreno-Adriatico. He would win.
But the parkour in Tirreno sucks.
No, he would. No, it's not. No, for Almeida, parkour in Tirreno is good. He would win. The 5K 9% climb where they
isn't that also perfect for a Ayuso right now?
That's the problem. Yeah, but that's the problem. That's the problem for Almeida.
Almeida's both of them together. Fight.
Portuguese fans. I mean, Almeida's being given the back seat, so one Ayuso can get the great schedule.
Ayuso's younger
and wins,
and has spoiled him the Vuelta. Then again, Almeida has spoiled him the Giro.
Yeah,
I think they're both rightfully.
No, Ayuso's above Almeida in the UAE pecking order.
They are, but they would be both deserving of leadership in 90% of the teams in World Tour.
Well, Almeida is still leading Paris-Nice. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Catalunya suits him the most, I would say. Anyway, Tirreno-Adriatico, we just alluded to it. Stage 1, Benji says perhaps it's in weather trouble. There's a tweet from Marco MM, who's a meteorologist, climatologist on Twitter.
Could have literally linked anyone's tweet. You would have read it.
Right. Meteorologist, Italian. It's fact. So And also, I've been on Cyclone Watch. Unfortunately, there's a cyclone about to hit the east coast of Australia. In
Really?
Sunshine Coast, Brisbane, and the Gold Coast. Yeah, so
A cyclone? What?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a
Like
weather expert.
a tornado
we can
from the
tell.
ocean.
I trust Marco MM with all my weather conditions in Italy. But a tornado from the ocean is a cyclone.
Yeah.
Why is it not? Why don't you just call it a tornado then? On the ocean.
I don't know, but it's pretty hectic actually. So hopefully there's not too much flooding.
Sharknado.
But yeah, apparently there'll be really bad weather, so it could affect the stage, which is the opening TT at Lido Camaiore. We have in the race, surely Ghana's doing it. Ghana.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the one that Ghana should win, but Ayuso won it last year, and he's back, of course. Then stage 2 is it's a sprint. Stage 3 is a harder sprint, the likes of which Bauhaus won last year. Van der Poel's here. I like Van der Poel for that one. Stage 4 is a easy last hour, but there's mountains before. It gives the breakaway an opportunity if it gets formed. Stage 5 is a Muri stage with some hills. And then stage 6 is the uphill finish, 7Ks, 8%. Then stage 7 is a easy sprint. So 2 guaranteed flat sprints, 1 breakaway / could be a sprint where Trek will control. And then stage 3 is like a weird sprint where you'll have like a Kevin Vauquelin third, but Bauhaus winning like last year. And then 1 steep hill stage, and then 1 mountaintop finish. So as Benji said, not the hardest route GC wise.
Definitely not. I want to add to that I think the Muro stage 5 that you're pointing towards, to me that's above Muri. As in, when I think of Muri, I think about the Van der Poel, Castelfidardo kind of stage. I don't think this parkour is Van der Poel territory. I think this parkour is GC riders might try to open it up.
Yeah. Who is Scaroni here? Is Scaroni here? He's not. Just put him on the list, Astana. Put him on the list.
Like, Hill Classics, add it.
Bro, he'll fucking top 5 GC here.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to add. About?
I think parkour-wise, I'm trusting Ayuso more than Adam Yates here.
Where is Yates? He was in Oman. Been preparing. He wasn't in his best shape in Oman. Ayuso is absolutely flying. Great course for him. Ayuso will have the TT lead. I mean, what UAE can do is what we just described with Jorgensen and Vingegaard. You play Yates as the attacker on the GC uphill finish. Ayuso is probably leading GC by that point across bonus seconds and TT.
Yep.
Very difficult to deal with. So,
and the raid stage, the Muro stage that you pointed at, that stage is slightly too hard for a Muro stage. That's also Ayuso territory for me.
I mean, he just won Laigueglia and Drome Classic. That's literally what... Yeah.
And I need him to win Tirreno to claim Giro d'Italia pre-potential co-favoritism.
It'd be the biggest race he's won of his career.
Yeah, he was second last year.
He won Basque Country, but I'm sorry, all the top guys crashed out. It was not... It wasn't that big. You still got to win it. It's a World Tour stage race. But if he comes to Tirreno and wins Tirreno, yeah, it's big. So,
he's my favorite for it.
He should be the favorite across the TT in his current shape. Keen to see how Lander and Paripantra go. Hindley's there. Who else? See if Simon Felipe Yates starts his season there. As well as whatever Astana throw at everybody, but Ayuso heavy favorite for the sprints. Johnny Milan for Trek will obviously be there, as is Law against Coy, and Philipsen won't be there. I don't think it'll be Van der Poel, so I'm keen to see how the sprints go as well. Okay, moving on to, is that our last race preview, Benji?
That's our last race preview. But before we wrap
up, pick the podiums. We got to pick Strade. Yeah, pick the podiums of the 2 1-weekers.
The full podium, Jesus Christ, my friend. For me, Vingegaard wins Paris, Ayuso wins Tirreno, but who else will get second and third?
I'm going Jorgensen, Vingegaard.
A 1-2.
Almeida. Actually, no. If there's crosswinds, depends if the weather's bad. If the weather's bad, Almeida won't like it.
Yeah. Why are we doing podiums? I'm sorry, but I don't care.
Well, I mean, I care. I mean, I'm still going. I'm going Santi third. I'm going Santi third.
I like it. I'm going Schielmo's a third. And Almeida second.
And then Tirreno, I'm going Ayuso. I don't think Yates will have it for some reason.
Same. Yates is washed, is what you're saying? That's what I heard.
I just don't know. I just feel like when. I mean, this is the combination of their. This is for Giro authority as well because they're both going to the Giro. But yeah, I feel like it'll be Ayuso, Javier Romo, and Bilbao.
I am going for solid third. He's going to beat Samyn Yates and Kian Uiterbrooks up in his own team.
Dude, what if what if then you have to eat your words and he has scores more points than Roglic this year?
No, I never. Let me set the record straight here. I'm countering the point that you said he would be the next Vingegaard, not Roglic.
No, I didn't. I say Roglic.
So someone get the file. It's on the internet. Get the receipts. Get the receipts somewhere. I don't actually know anymore 100% who of us is right here. But get the receipts anyway.
No idea. No idea.
But if I said Roglic and that happens, I will give a 2-minute speech that will apologize to you, to Ben Tullet, to Seven Oaks as a wonderful nation.
Thank you.
And to his parents.
Fair enough. Okay, accepted. Anyway, look out. Pello Bilbao is going to score 1 million UCI points, and you won't see him on TV for the next week. Last point.
Before we finish off today's podcast, I want to do some self-promo. I just uploaded a video on my channel called I Tried Climbing a 50-kilometer volcano, in which I tried climbing a 50-kilometer volcano in Tenerife, Mount Teide, and it was a hell of a project to get the video done. Been working on it for a lot longer than I should be working on it. I would think it's a pretty good video, so go check it out on the Benji Nazen channel. You shall see me suffer a lot, and hope it inspires a couple of other people to also take up the same love for cycling that I have next to yapping about it.
Go and check it out on Benji's YouTube channel. And yeah, thanks for listening as always. We'll see you next with the recap of Strade Bianche on Saturday. Remember? They're earlier to the RCS races on Saturdays.
Women's in the morning, no?
Because Sunday's for Mass. The women's first. Yep.
Okay.
Let's hope there's no horses on the course this time. And yeah, if you want to watch some cycling this week, there's stream coverage of Extremadura Femenina. If you want to see some stars of the future, I encourage you to check that out over the Thursday, Friday. But until our Strade recap, ciao, ciao.